Welcome everybody. Welcome everybody to this, the third day of Forward Motion. We've had two great days here already. Channel 4 on the Thursday and a whole host of different things yesterday. And today we've got some very special guests to offer us of their expertise, experience and wisdom through the morning. Beginning at 11:15 we've got Alison Sterling coming, founder of Ignition Films, a leading Southwest film producer, in particular because she was one of the three successful producers from many hundreds that pitched to get one of the three iFeatures slots via Southwest Screen. So she's in the middle of making a feature film in Bristol. She'll be here at 11:15 to tell us about her journey from short films to her first feature. And then at 12:30 we've got John Waters here. In fact, he's already with us now, and it's a real honour to have him here. Wildlife and documentary cameraman extraordinaire. Huge experience working all over the world on series like Fragile Earth, Wildlife on One and many others. So we're looking forward to John at 12:30. And then at 2 we've got one of our Junction events, which is an opportunity to network, show your films, see and be seen, hear and be heard, and hopefully have a nice afternoon. We've never done one in the afternoon before, but so it's a 2 o'clock junction. But before all of that, it's my great pleasure to introduce Andrew Buchanan, who is a highly experienced executive producer, ex-deputy head of Granada Wild Television, huge experience on his belt. Andrew, welcome, Making the Pitch.
Thank you. Why am I here, other than because Phil twisted my arm? I'm here because I'm a trustee of the engine room, and I think what the engine room and Sunset Film does is very important. That's why I'm a trustee, that's why I'm happy to be here. The other reason I'm here is, as Phil said, is that I have a length of experience which most recently has been in wildlife, but before that it was in drama, television drama, before that in feature films, as a location manager, so I wasn't actually pitching feature films, I hasten to add, and even before that in theatre, which was in fact where Phil and I first met, way back in the heady days of the 1960s. And a good time was had by all. But as we're live, I don't think Phil and I will go into the full details. What I'm going to talk particularly about today is, if you like, the written pitch. And clearly I'm going to talk about documentary, but we will talk a little bit about face-to-face meetings, but what I think is important is what I say about this. Actually, it's exactly the same whether you're talking about a face-to-face meeting or a written pitch for a documentary, for a drama, for a wildlife show, for a reality, a quiz show. It really doesn't matter. I believe that the principles of what makes a good pitch are the same, whatever you're doing. I have obviously done a lot of pitching. You don't have 320 programmes broadcast without having done some pitches. However, I realised that my pitching success rate was probably about 1 idea in 7. Now I'm told that's not bad, but it can be pretty depressing. So please accept that while I'm here to tell you about pitching, I too have had some fairly spectacular failures. There was a moment when I pitched an idea about alchemy to the Discovery Channel. That was not a wise idea. We were going to make we used the Philosopher's Stone to make gold. I'd found alchemists, and the question I got was, well, why don't they simply make the gold and you don't need the budget from us? I couldn't answer that one. So anyway, what makes the perfect pitch? Okay, I'm going to tell you actually what makes a good pitch. The only perfect pitch is the one that results in you getting a commission. But so much of this business is luck, and I think that by working on your pitch carefully and by following some basic rules, many of which are going to be pretty obvious, that you will end up with a good pitch, which, if you're lucky, will turn into the perfect pitch. There are some very simple basics. Oh, it's interesting, this does it. What happens if I do this? This is a different program, isn't it? Right. research who you're pitching to. If you're pitching to Southwest Screen for an eye feature, then for heaven's sake, pitch to Southwest Screen for an eye feature. Don't pitch to them for a short film about travelling families in Bridgewater, if that's what the call is for. Do the research, know who they are. If it's a TV channel, watch their programmes. There's no point in pitching something which is either identical. I mean, okay, imitation is the sincerest form of television. So, the clone, the copy, dancing on ice, dancing on rollerblades, dancing on dustbin lids, doesn't matter. It'll probably come. But do watch the programmes. There is absolutely no point in trying to pitch cold a documentary programme about a subject which a particular channel doesn't show, or they don't show that style of documentaries. Be clear. We'll come on to that a little bit later. Be concise. Brevity is important at certain points. Show your unique selling point. Horrible expression, but actually your unique selling point is quite simply the fact that you have the rights to this wonderful script and no one else has. That you've got Johnny Depp signed up to play the lead. That you have access to this completely undiscovered, unfilmed reserve in a wild part of China where they found a whole load more pandas of a completely new species. That is your unique selling point. Your unique selling point might be that, we are the only company that can do this because of our track record. But what is it that makes you or your proposal so unique, and therefore one that they must have? And above all, don't waste their time by putting in badly put together pitches or by sending them stuff that they won't be interested in. They will remember who wasted their time. Have no illusions. Okay, I know commissioning editors probably move every 3 years, but they go on to be commissioning editor somewhere else. So you'll have blown it, not just with the Bravo channel, but then when they move to BBC4, they'll say, oh yes, that was the guy who pitched me the show about alchemy. I don't want anything from him. Remember, they get hundreds of proposals. I was at Animal Planet with one of their commissioners, and he'd gone out of the room, and I was sitting in a chair by his desk, and I had a look at a pile. On his desk, there was a pile that high of unread wildlife proposals. Later in the same meeting, he told me with some pride he had 500 unopened emails in his inbox. These guys get deluged. That's why another reason I say don't waste the time. And the chances are you've got 40 seconds or less. These slides will be available on via the Engine Room website, so if you want them. But you've got 40 seconds or less to get their attention. Just like they say with an interview, the person interviewing you will know within 30 or 40 seconds whether they like you or not, and that probably means whether you got the job. It's exactly the same. Whether it's face-to-face or with a piece of paper, they're going to make a quick decision. So what do you include? What must you include? Blindingly obvious, the title. Now, interestingly, the title is the very first piece of information that the Commissioner is going to use to decide whether he's going to read or she is going to read on or not. So, what the title is, I think, is absolutely vital. It needs to catch people's imagination. It needs to say what your film is about. Perhaps it needs to have a little bit of mystery. I don't know. But the title is that is the first thing people read, and it needs to be catchy. And it may be in the genre of, events that shook the world or body shock or whatever. But those are that kind of shock horror thing is a genre that goes on. But nonetheless, you've got these. You have titles. People say, "Oh, that could be interesting." It could be The Georgians. People be interested in that. So, but think about your title, because if they don't like the title or it's not interesting. Next, a tagline. What do I mean by tagline? For those of you who don't know, it's describing your film or series in one sentence. Imagine trying to tweet what your film is about. Now, it's said, and I think it's right, if you can't describe your film or your story or your project in one sentence, you don't know what it's about. You're not clear. And again, the tagline, I think, is another thing. That's the next thing after the title, which helps them. I'm trying to think of a good example of a tagline. I can't at the moment. Maybe we'll come on to that later. But it needs to be concise. It needs to tell them what it's about, and perhaps, leave something unanswered. Depends on the genre. Many commissioners like to see duration, number of episodes, and approximate budget. This may or may not be appropriate, but if you're, it's worth knowing that it's a 1 hour film. Oh, for heaven's sake, don't pitch 40-minute films to people who only take 50-minute, or don't pitch short films to people who only take, 1 hour or series. They need to know the duration, the number of episodes, and it might be appropriate to put in the genre. Is it reality, is it documentary, is it drama, whatever. It may not be appropriate, you just need to read what the commissioning brief says. And many broadcasters have now got their commissioning brief, what they're looking for, up on their website. Genre, okay. Now, the opening paragraph. This expands on your tagline. It gives an overall view of the narrative in a kind of general terms. If you haven't stated the genre, in the top, you might want to put it in there. And you have to tell them almost everything they need to know in the first paragraph in order to make the decision. Because remember, you've only got 40 seconds by the time you've read the title, the tagline, that it's 3 hours, 1 hours. You haven't got much time left. So here's an absolutely classic opening paragraph. This observational documentary, tells you the genre, follows a year in the life of children, parents and teachers, so you know who you're following and for how long, as they struggle to save their failing nursery school from closure, okay, a bit of drama and tension there, by using new and controversial teaching methods imported from the USA. Now that tells you what that particular programme, this isn't my idea, it's somebody else's, but it's, that I think is very clear. It tells you it's an observational documentary, it's going to follow a year, you're going to have parents, you've got controversy because of teaching methods, and there's a struggle. You know it's going to be full of conflict and human drama, there's going to be jeopardy, tension, and actually there's a measurable outcome. And you can complete it within a year because it's going to follow a year. The next thing after the opening paragraph is the outline. Now, by outline, I mean basically a number of paragraphs or a section where you spell out the specifics. Using this example of the school story, at this point you might say that it's an oversubscribed nursery school in the most deprived or the leafiest part of Manchester. That tells you more about the type of school it is. It tells you what you might see, that it's in Manchester, it's oversubscribed, that it's leafy, it's deprived, whatever it is. In this outline, remember I talked about unique selling point. Have you got access? One of the very first questions that anybody will ask you if you're commissioning a programme about a place or a person, have you got them signed up? Have you got access? It's worth mentioning that.